here. So with that, the next question, I'm going to go a little interview-wise, like back to the basics of what was the biggest challenge that you guys faced along the way, and what did you learn from overcoming these challenges?
Well, since we have such a long history of building for 6 or 7 years, a lot of challenges. I guess I can share some, maybe Nicholas can share some as well. One of the challenge is basically, as I also touched on, Pi takes a very non-conformist approach. But people expect, in my view these days in crypto, more like a cookie cutting kind of process. When it's a protocol, you need to expect to have this, A, B, and C. And if you don't see that, you kind of have different effect, it kind of like irrelevant or something. But actually, real innovation really comes from non-conformist approaches. You can repeat the same process again and again, actually expect that innovation to occur. So that's why we are quite different. We take very different approach. We emphasize, for example, mainstream. The reason is because you need to build real products. You need to have mainstream users, merchants, to actually join the network. You can't only have a group of people only care about the fluctuation of some number. You have to have people who understand go on in their real life and then may actually use some services from this network. So that's why we have a very different approach. Also, a different one is like KYC. Like why? I've never heard of a whole network is KYC. Who does that? And also, we spend tremendous time actually building the KYC solution natively, specifically to avoid pioneers having to pay out-of-pocket costs. So our KYC solution actually is not requiring our pioneers to pay US dollars, and also they can participate in a way that is self-bootstrapped in a sense. And it covers all geolocations of the whole Pi network, which is literally almost every country and region. And that never happened before, and we actually achieved over 14 million KYC users on our blockchain. And this type of approach are very different. And the reason is because the high level, we think, is still aiming for real utility creation. And the real utility and actually bring out the potential of blockchain, it touches on ownership. The ownership of real stuff. So when there is ownership, in order to be compliant, you need to know who is who owns what. Thus, we think that the KYC is a very important aspect of any network, any Web3 that touches on ownership and financial related matters. So that's why we build this component and make this component possible. And I know that there are some online posts saying that, oh, I didn't KYC and such. But look on the grand scheme of things. Pi KYC has processed and actually enabled 14 million people who KYC. This scale is already so big compared to other networks. So this is something that we uniquely take, but that does not necessarily understood by the rest of the world. So that's something I see as a challenge of trying to kind of balancing, trying to communicate what we're doing, which is different, and get the world to understand. At the same time, continue and persistently pursuing our North Star, which is to create utility.
Well, there's many challenges. I will say one, more focusing on the technical side. So, on the blockchain, sometimes you can create a pretty successful product with tens of thousands of users or dozens of thousands of transactions or things happening per month. But when on Pi we have tens of millions of people visiting the app every day, that creates a different level of technical challenge. This is more known to Web 2 than Web 3. And that creates a pretty challenging and interesting problem for us computer scientists. That was a challenge here.
I can comment. Actually, at the initial phase, early on, first year or so, Pi actually went through growing pain. meaning that our community grows so much faster than our tech infrastructure. And probably early on, pioneers may also remember the experience. Sometimes the app was down for a period of time. That's because our infrastructure needs to catch up with the growth of our community. So Nicholas was literally waking up every day for a long time.
Not a few times that the moderators called us telling us that the app is not working. So thank you guys.
I guess I already talked about App Studio. I think that's the most recent release, and I think we explained actually in our announcement very clearly. Pi is definitely embracing the revolution of AI, not because AI is just another word, but because we truly believe that AI will change the world and how we live, and blockchain and AI in our view is very connected, and I will also address the relationship of that in a talk next week in Token. But basically, AI, not only AI facilitating production of different apps, but AI integrated in the app level as well. And I think App Studio has been the first initiative we released to try to address that problem. And as I mentioned, the differentiator from App Studio from typical vibe coding is that not only it enables creation without coding of the app, but also it finished the deployment, which is actually a lot of vibe coding programs doesn't do. It may give you some instruction how to deploy it. That also requires the person who created to have some technical knowledge in order to do those steps to deploy. But for Pi App Studio, literally people can just use a user interface to deploy, and also connecting their apps to real users in the ecosystem. So this is like a pipeline of actually supporting app building than just a facilitator of a code generation. And that's why we are very excited about App Studio, and we are very much looking forward to its second and third iteration. And of course, also ecosystem-related interfaces are going to facilitate surfacing useful apps generated by App Studio. I think the first we only released it for 3 months or so. Thousands of apps were generated from App Studio. So the next stage is how can we identify and surfacing and promoting the good ones? How can we facilitate the app creators to have business model in their apps so that everyone can actually literally run online business online. So this is one of the cool features we product.
여러분 지금 이제 Q&A 시간 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 원하시는 질문 있으시면 손 들고 편하게 질문해 주시면은 제가 전달해드리도록 하겠습니다. 혹시 질문 있으신 분 있으실까요? Okay. 네.
This is a question for Pi. What allows, what backs the mining on people's phones? What allows that to happen? What's the process of me being able to mine Pi on my phone?
Good question. We used to be getting this question a lot in the beginning. Now these days, I guess we answered it many times. But first of all, I want to clarify that you don't expect that the blockchain protocol is running on the phone. Okay. So that's what Tia was saying earlier, that we have 350,000 computer nodes who are currently connected into the network. Most of them on testnet, but we have our mainnet as well. So still blockchains and protocols are running on computers. Now, in the year 2018 or 19 when we started, we wanted to build something that is on mobile phone. So, it needs to be part of the protocol itself. So the way that the mobile phones are contributing to the consensus algorithm is by producing a giant trust graph. And this trust graph is then used by the nodes to run the actual consensus protocol, which we can describe. Now, if you want to try to understand the core of how the protocol works, then I will say the following. So this kind of trust graph is similar to how the original Google algorithm worked. The original Google algorithm, it was called PageRank. Now it's transformed a lot through the years. Was essentially trying to disambiguate on the internet which page is the real page of a certain individual or institution. So let's say you have a university and pick your favorite one, I don't know, MIT. And you have another blogger who is pretending to be an MIT. How do you know that the real MIT is MIT and the other one is not? Is through the trust graph, similar concept. So the concept there is that you have MIT pointing to Stanford, Stanford is pointing to MIT, and the various other universities are pointing to one another. On the internet level, this is based on links on web pages. Now on if you translate this on Pi, it is based on people using their phones to point at one another, at individuals they know and trust. They select people from their contact list. Now, so now, this is quite a powerful concept though, because in the same way in the early internet, before Google, people could create pages that have thousands of links to point to one another, pretending to be something else. After you apply PageRank, and similar concept with Pi, you essentially come to a conclusion that even if the whole Pi network was just the people in this room, let's say, even if it was just the three of us, and I'm pointing to Xinjiao, and we're pointing at one another. Now imagine a third person comes in who wants to be an adversary, and that person creates 1,000 fake accounts.
안녕하세요. 저는 한 가지 질문과 한 가지 부탁을 좀 드리고 싶습니다. 질문은 거래소에 현재 거래소에 있는 파이가 리얼 파이다 아니다라는 내용이 국내 특히 한국에서 굉장히 의견들이 분분합니다. 그래서 서로 싸우고 막 유튜브나 블로그에서도 많은 의견들이 나오는데 그거에 대한 명확한 언급을 좀 해주셨으면 하고요. 부탁은 제가 이제 장애인인데 파이가 많은 세계의 영향력을 갖다가 행사할 것으로 믿습니다만 이 장애인에 대해서도 어떤 원의 어떤 파이가 코인이 그러니까 커런시가 될 수 있도록 좀 부탁이 말씀을 좀 드립니다.
Okay, all of you translated. So just although the listing pi is the real pi, so we wanted to ask the Bearcat, and he wants to some kind of help to I don't know what to say.
Me too, it's okay.
블로그나 카페에서 리얼 파이인지 아닌지
Yeah,
서로 의견 충돌이 있다.
there's so many words about is it real pi or it's not. It's listed on there, so he wanted to know clear about it. Yeah, that's all. That's the question.
So basically for that authenticity of the listing, that's why we have a page of KYB the services that actually list past the KYB of Pi network, and only those services has the real Pi listing. Anything else, pioneers should be aware. If those services are not listed in the KYB page, then you should be suspicious of that. So that's how we distinguish. But at the same time, I think our pioneer community member mentioned something that is the other side of a great thing, that we have a such wide distributed and large community. I mean, we have been talking about this social network of Pi so large, so widely distributed, and that's basically our collective resource we rely on to build, the utilities and have more BD partnerships. But at the same time, for such a massive community, we basically only have been communicating in English in our limited channels. Even though our channels are facing all pioneers, we don't do any official localized communication. That means there has been never an official in a local language authority. Anything in local language basically is adapted from the official language, official announcement from English. We do not have any official representative in any of the local place. So that also goes to one of the challenges is managing such a massive community. And our team hasn't really, to be honest, the best in terms of marketing, and because we are people who emphasize essence instead of just the looks. But that also created, this challenge I mentioned, that especially for community that are English is not very English proficient. It basically have this void that needs to be filled. Of course, a lot of very nice community members locally do a very good job in communicating the Pi's vision, Pi's approach. But at the same time, this void also gives opportunity to badly intended people to manipulate or to deceive. So that's why we send so many reminders on our app in terms of be aware of scams and be aware of people who pretend to be us and be aware of miscommunication. Always refer to our official channel for the Pi News and always refer to the official website, for example, for all the legitimate services that list Pi, so that people actually can distinguish what is authentic and what is not. And that's part of the reason why we're here actually attending the conferences. One is to actually introduce Pi to the wider community of crypto. Another reason is to engage with our community member directly, let you guys understand and hear the real authentic design thinking and story behind Pi, and remind everyone that Pi's the authentic information actually comes from official channel that is only in English.
되게 길게 말씀을 해주셨는데 결국 전하시는 메시지는 되게 간단했던 것 같아요. 무조건 이제 파이에 대해서 정확하게 알고 싶을 때는 파이 정확한 웹사이트를 통해서 다른 이상한 채널이나 다른 곳들을 통해서가 아닌 싸이 웹사이트에 나와 있는 내용으로만 확인을 해주시면 된다고 합니다. 싸이 웹사이트에 이제 세이프티라고 되어 있는 곳을 봐야 이제 어디에 상장이 되었는지 이런 부분들에 대해서 정확한 팔로우를 가능하시기 때문에 무조건 이제 웹사이트를 통해서 이제 모든 정보를 얻으시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 그리고 리스팅이 되더라도 이제 리얼파이가 아니라 이런 부분에 대해서도 이게 제대로 상장이 되어 있는 것인지 이게 스캠인지 이것을 알기 위해서는 무조건 웹사이트와 정확한 그런 정보를 통해서 알면 될 것 같습니다.
네.
Thank you so much.
네, 한국에서 커피 노사라는 유튜브 채널, 파이코인 유튜브 채널을 운영하고 있습니다. 총 3가지 질문을 할 건데요. 소로반이 언제 정확하게 스마트 컨트랙트가 언제 장착이 되는지, 소로반이나 스마트 컨트랙트가 언제 확실하게 장착이 되는지, 그리고 파이코 팀이 운영 중인, 자체로 운영하는 덱스 거래가 준비되고 있는지, 덱스 거래소. 그 다음에 3번째는 덱스 거래소가 운영이 됐을 때 파이코인 기반, 파이코인 채널의 밈코인이나 NFT도 다 KYB를 다 받아야 되는지.
어떤 걸 받아요?
KYB.
KYB를 받아요?
네, 받아야 하는지, 그런 것들도 준비하고 있는지. 네, 이 총 3가지입니다.
알겠습니다.
네.
Okay, there are 3 questions about Paycoin. Is there any chance of Soban is on that Soban?
소로반, yeah.
Soban is on Pi. Is there any chance to on Pi blockchain? And second one is there any chance to make Pi coins DEX? Paycoin's own DEX, DEX. Yeah, and if someone listed on that DEX, then they have to pay the KYP. Yeah.
So first first of all, overall, I want to mention that it's Pi's policy after Open Network, we do not mention or discuss any features that is not ready to go, released or about release. So I have no comment in terms of the future features. But overall, high level, I think Pi, as I mentioned, the utility will continue to be the goal, but further, enable more crypto-typical features are also in the plan of Pi. But I hope community will have to stay tuned in terms of announcement, because we only announce things that are released after Open Network. If you want to comment something.
Yeah, something relevant here is that the mainnet blockchain has been on version 19, and we recently announced that we are upgrading to version 23 gradually, and that gradual migration will also depend on the speed of all the various other nodes upgrading.
일단 간단하게 설명드리자면 그런 부분들에 대해서 일단 열린 이후에 정확하게 말씀해 주실 수 있다고 하셨고요. 이게 시작이 되기 전에는 이제 공식적으로 이렇게 언급하기 좀 어려운 부분이 있다라고 말씀을 해주셨습니다. 그런 부분에 대해서 좀 양해했습니다.
네, 오케이.
Thank you so much.
My friends also build application in Pi Explorer, both in Korea and China.
Yes, so my first question is, as a co-founder of Pi Network, you already have a massive community members. So how do you envision Pi Network involving this ecosystem via payment, and what paid strategies will ensure sustainable real adoption? Yeah, so this is the first question.
I can answer the first part. How do we envision it? So for Pi apps, first of all, we want it to be easily accessible by the users and easily buildable by the developers. So that's why we've been building for a long time before we launched the Pi browser. We wanted everybody to be able to create a mobile app essentially, much easier than you have to go through the process of creating all the components of the Pi app, of a standard mobile app. So this way, and now these days with the addition of generative AI, we're trying to make it even more easy even for people who are not necessarily trained computer scientists to be able to do this. And then in terms of the users should be able to use Web3 and the smart contract-based, crypto-enabled services directly from their mobile phones. And that's how we want to connect through the user experience and making it easy for people to participate and use it.
Yeah, so first of all, both of us have a background in human-computer interaction. If you know, ACI is one branch inside CS. One thing that is very important for product building is about user feedback. And I think anyone who knows product building understands how important real users' feedback on the product to iterate. It's not just the first version we release, it will become a killer app. It actually is an iterative process to achieve that. And in order to have that, you need to have real users, and that's part of the motivation of building such a huge social network in Pi. Because at the beginning, we identified this as a problem of why crypto space is hard to give rise to real, product that solve human needs, as I said before. So having a large enough social network, especially composed of people, not just the crypto natives, but also mainstream, will create that environment that are able to provide feedback to real product building. So that's why we think that you ask how do we support our developers? Well, having this environment that allows real product building, one, And second, pair them with the cool tools, as Nicholas mentioned, of crypto. And third, the resources, including funding typically in most of the crypto space. And now we have Pi Network Venture, we're backing good projects, but also users. Because as a computer person, you want to build things that become real products and used by people, right? Useful. However, at the same time, a real team, a company, really needs at least three major components to really succeed. A team, like people who can build and execute, access to market, and funding. Those are the most three important fundamental components of any startup to succeed. So for Pi Network, we want to provide users for any team to be able to tap into, and these teams are not just crypto teams, because any type of apps and company need users. AI or not, Web3 or not, Web2, you want users to iterate, build real products, and launch. So that's something that Pi Network, provide for developers. And second, as I said, fundings. And our fundings are quite different, which we're not just throwing the funding around. As we mentioned in the announcement of Pi Network Ventures, we're actually looking for startups that are disruptive and that are actually integrating the next generation of technology. Because we know that, we know so sure that AI is going to be the future. We know that there will be a next generation of apps that involves AI, either in generation or in itself. So why are we building an apps, ecosystem of the old apps? Let's build a new one. Let's directly build the AI-powered and AI-facilitated apps from scratch. And that's how we capture the next wave of real-world production on the blockchain. And I urge other blockchains also doing so. I do see many other blockchains also embrace AI, but specifically for Pi, we definitely are very serious in terms of the AI initiative.
And I want to mention and add two more things for the part of teams need funding. In essence, funding is actually always needed, especially after you build your app. So having business models and real business models is the most healthy thing for an app. So Pi provides at least two business models through the Pi ad network, and because there is a lot of people coming to the Pi applications, then that makes even those ads meaningful for developers to be able to continue developing, and of course the ability to charge users in Pi.
Yeah, exactly. So business model is important in addition to fundraising type of resources.